Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. If you want to follow along, we're back in the first chapter of Acts, and we will be looking at one verse today, or excuse me, three verses. Can't even count. Verses 12 through 14, and those verses are good verses for the church today. They say, "Then they returned to Jerusalem, they being the disciples, from the mount called Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day journey away. And when they had entered, they went up to the upper room where they were staying, Peter and John and James, Andrew, Philip, Thomas, Bartholomew, and Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon the Zealot, and Judas the son of James. All these with one accord were devoting themselves to prayer, together with the women, and Mary the mother of Jesus, and his brothers." So we see the disciples gathered here and all listed by name, and there are some good instruction here for the church to understand. Some guidance for us on choosing leaders. Churches have struggled over the years with picking leaders. Many times it turns into a popularity contest. It turns into a financial contest. We just take whoever volunteers. If they're crazy enough to say they'll do it, we'll let them do it. But this passage tells us and shows us that there was some genuine thought, effort went into choosing their leaders. And first of all, as we look at this, there's at least 5-6 things here that we can cherry pick and show are examples for us of the qualifications and how to choose leaders. First of all, we see that they were obedient to Jesus. They followed him. They had been to the mount. They had been on the Mount of Olives, and now they obeyed Christ by returning to Jerusalem, which is what he told them to do. Now, you may say, "Well, what's the big deal?" They went home. They went to where they belonged. Well, home wasn't home anymore. Jerusalem was a dangerous place. They just crucified their leader, and he was, persona non grata in Jerusalem. And now here his followers are told to go back to that same town, and and so they go. So it was a dangerous decision, but they did it. And so first thing we see is we need church leaders, we need leaders who are willing to be obedient to Jesus Christ. Again, the second thing we notice is, as we look at this, they weren't all there. There were probably by that time about 120, but they chose between this group. The leaders should be leaders. We don't choose leaders hoping that they will grow up and become leaders. Many times in the church, we pick people to be leaders, and we think, well, if we give them a job, maybe they'll start coming to church. Now, if you look at that list of men they were looking at men who were leaders, at those who already had a reputation as solid, godly men. The other thing we see about them is they were in unity. It says they were in one accord. These were men that could work together. They were cooperative. They weren't mean-spirited and harsh towards each other. They went to the upper room where they were staying, and it gives this list, and it says they were all in one accord, and they were praying. Church leaders should be prayers. They should be people who believe in prayer, who practice prayer. These men persevered. They devoted themselves to prayer. It was a serious effort. Leaders in the church need to be prayer warriors. And it says they were together there. And again, it says that Peter stands up, and even though Peter had failed the Lord, he had denied the Lord, he is there. He is willing. He is putting himself. He is putting himself there, putting himself out, serving, willing to work for the Lord, and devoted to serving Him. And so, just a kind of a quick run through. You can spend some time and dig in a little deeper if you'd like on those, but I think there are some good guidelines for us that honestly most of the time in most churches I've been involved in, we don't follow very closely. We don't follow that pattern. We pass out a sheet and say, who wants this job? Whoever says they'll take it, we hang it on them. We find just find somebody that's willing to do it. I am convinced we'd be better off leaving a lot of jobs, we'd be better off leaving all jobs, all positions in the church unfilled, rather than fill them with someone who is unqualified. And here are just a few. Obviously, there's more in other places in the Bible, Timothy, Titus, other places, but here are just a few of the ways of the requirements and things they looked at, the example that the leaders in the early church were looking for. All right, think about that. Check out your church. Check out your nominating committee. See if we're following those directions. All right, have a great day. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.